Okay. Oh, and scene 11 is already here. 3 thumbs up. Well, I'm almost on time today. Just quick sound and video check. Just let me know. Oh, 10 of you already. Wow. I guess you're interested in the Milo one. So, salute. It's good to cheers to your enemies. If one of you that's in the chat can just let me know sound is alright. And again, the grabbling popping in and out. But hopefully the sound is good. I do have the little fan going, but that hasn't seemed to be a problem before, so. Video, audio good on my end. Excellent. Thank you, LS16. Right, so as some, maybe most, maybe all of you will know, I recently did some blog posts, a series of blog posts actually, on Milo. And they're all at, I've actually put the links in the description below. I don't know if you can see that now or not, but in any case, it's 3 posts, and a bit disappointing really that I had to do them, because I had quite liked Milo originally, and I thought, you know, I was fooled like everybody else, that I thought he was on our side, that sort of thing, despite the fact that he was a raging sodomite. I didn't particularly hold that against him because, well, sexual sin is one of those things that most people are, you know, to some degree or the other are delving in it. You know, obviously, sodomite sin is quite the thing, but, you know, just not being married, fornication, that sort of thing. Obviously, I've never had any kind of homosexual issues, but I've certainly been around the block in terms of having sex with women and so on. So I didn't particularly think of Milo as, you know, and he had made overtures about, oh, well, one day maybe you'll want to have kids, that sort of thing. But it has come to my attention very recently that he is clearly a Freemason. Now, the way this transpired, which it's quite funny because, you know, of course, the outrage of like, oh, look at the Kurgan is just some attention-seeking whore who's just been ignored by Milo, and so he's just angry. He's angry. He's like a scorned deprivationist. No, that's not what happened. What happened is I had a very nice interview with Professor Rachel Fulton Brown, who is actually friends with Milo. And it was a nice interview. I thoroughly enjoyed it. She was a perfect host. A perfect interviewee, rather. I am far from a perfect host, but there you go. And so I emailed her and I said, what do you think? Would Milo be interested in this sort of thing? And she said, well, let me tell him about our interview. He'll have a look at that first. Maybe he'll make up his mind. That was it. I didn't really think much of it. And then I thought, well, I haven't heard anything, so I just thought I'd ping him an email. So I pinged him an email. And I said, hey, by the way, I wrote this book on deprivation. Do you care? Would you like to have an interview? That sort of thing. And he replied instantly. You know, it was a pretty immediate response that he was like, oh, yeah, I'd love to have the book. And, you know, I said, well, look, I could post you one out, but, you know, it can take a couple of months to get to you because of American customs. And he said, oh, I'd love a signed one, but, you know, I'll just buy one. And I said, nah, that's cool. I'll send you one anyway. If you're going to buy one anyway, whatever, I'll send you one anyway. And I did. And signed it and everything. I put a little comment in there because I did take credit for Milo's going straight, if he has indeed gone straight. See, we met in Paris. I can't remember if it was 2014 or 2015. I don't know. The Gamergate thing, anyway, that Vox organized. And I was there, and so was Milo. And, you know, I complimented him. I said, look, you're a witty guy. You're very well read. It's interesting. You know, he made a comment as soon as I saw him. He made a comment something along to the effect, oh, well, now I'm in Paris. I control people by telling them to eat cake, which I think myself, Vox, and maybe one other person got that joke, because obviously he was referring to Marie Antoinette and the supposed statement that she said, which actually was not real as far as I'm aware. But, you know, when they said, oh, the peasants are starving, and she said, well, let them cake then. And I laughed. I said something like, "Oh, you're a funny guy. You're very well read and very impressed with your sort of thing." And he kind of gave me a side hug and he said, "Oh, we're the same." And that was it. And I thought, well, side hug with me. 7 years later, a couple of molecules of my pheromones got into his nostrils, and now he's straight. So I made him a funny message to that effect in the book, and sent it out to him. And then I double checked that the book had arrived. I did in fact get confirmation that the book had arrived, and he describes that as a mailing service. It's not a mailing service. It's a lady called Kathleen who very professionally replied to every email I sent her, and with the tracking codes and everything. And as soon as she got it, she said, "Oh, it arrived today, thanks." But after that, I gave it a month or whatever more. And then I sort of said, "Hey, maybe I had a chance to read it. I know you're busy and stuff, but I'm just wondering, originally that the intent was for you to have a look at this so that maybe you'd come and have an interview on the stream." Silence. So, well, he's a busy guy. Waited a few weeks, sent another one. Silence. Including Kathleen. Kathleen now silence. Like, okay. And now I knew what was going on just by, few data points. But around the same time, I've been doing the digital Kurganet, so I'm busy building different series. One of the series is on set deprivationism, and you have to get into the Freemasonry stuff with that stuff. And in getting to the Freemasonry stuff, I've also got guys helping me do research and pick up on things. And I got sent the stuff saying, "Hey, is Milo a Freemason?" And they sent me a bunch of pictures about Milo, like with eye covered and, doing the OK symbol. No, that's not an OK symbol. This is 666. You've got the whole 666 thing. It is a well-known Freemasonic signaling, as are various other ones. So there's that one over the eye. Why one eye and usually one arm like folded over inside clothes or hidden clothes? Because they've got like various different rituals that they do in Freemasonry. And if you're interested in this, there is a 5-hour video called something like Etienne Childs. Childs is the guy's surname. Exposes Freemasonry. It's a 5-hour video. Very irritating. The first 3, 4, 5 minutes you can just skip because the guy like builds it up, and he's like got a slightly annoying voice, I think. And but there is probably like an hour of videos of photographs of every single celebrity that you can think of doing these signals. It is signaling. And now people say, well, but if there were Freemasons and if it was a secret society, and if Freemasonry, within Freemasonry there's the other secret society which actually is ultimately Satanism, why would they signal so openly? Because they think you're cattle. That is actually what they think of you as, cattle. And that's why in the the still image for this video, I picked one of the ones where Milo's covering his eye, and you'll notice his glove has got like a cow pattern on it. It is completely Freemasonic. Now, to the people trying to defend him, including the absolute deceiver liar called Ranger on Social Galactic, which I've done a post on him before, which has just proved his outright lies, is saying, well, that was in his sodomite days and it's all fine, and you're just going after him because he's not a Sede. If he'd become a Sede, you would ignore all these things. Which is, of course, utter fucking nonsense, because I don't care what you say you are. I care about what you do. And if you claim to be any kind of a Catholic, well, you're going to get the Kurgan Inquisition. And if you claim to be a Sede and you're actually a fake Sede, I will burn you to the ground 10 times harder than if you're a mere Novus Orco guy. And there have been a number of things that, in hindsight, you can see that Milo's obviously a Freemason from many, many different data points, but they only become obvious once you sort of think, well, what if he is a Freemason? And as soon as you ask that question, a bunch of stuff suddenly makes sense. Like his immediate rise to fame originally, and then his fall from grace, and he had to go through the humiliation ritual, right? He had to publish the book where he's poor, and it was a pretty crappy book. I bought it, I read it, nothing in it. But the thing is, and I don't think I don't know that I published this, but I occasionally write articles for Men of the West, which is a blog that like some Dreadil guys put together, and I keep in touch with the Dreadilk and whatever. And I mentioned it long before his fall from grace after the Joe Rogan interview. They said Milo is going to become, he's going to crash and burn. He is going to crash and burn because he's a sodomite. He's trying to like play the right wing card, but it's not going to work. Eventually, he's going to come crashing down because that's how God works. And either he'll have a rude wake up call, or he'll just fade out into like obscurity. So he had his fall from grace, and then all of a sudden, he reinvented himself as, I am no longer a sodomite. I'm going to throw the sodomite stone, his $150,000 ring, into a volcano. Then he couldn't get to the volcano, so he'd throw it into the ocean. And it was a pretty good move. I even made a comment in it that said, that makes kind of sense. If you are really repentant of all that stuff and you want a clean start, I get it. Although a lot of people said, well, it's $150,000 stone. Why don't you just donate it, like sell it and donate the money to somebody, and do some good with it? And there isn't really any argument against that, other than if you are somewhat, some people would say arrogantly selfish. Personally, I don't necessarily think that is a complete case of it, because I kind of get the idea of having to really cut umbilical cords in life. I've done it myself, not by throwing anything particularly worthwhile everywhere, but I get this. I get the idea about cutting all your lines. But did he actually throw 150 grand stone into the sea? Who knows? You can't know that. You weren't there. You don't know what that stone was. You don't know if he actually threw it in the sea. But it certainly helped catapult him back to fame, right? Oh, he's now a good boy. And it's the mockery is even in his name on his Telegram channel, ex-gay good boy, right? And who does he team up with? Gary Voorhis, or as I prefer to call him, Michel Voorhis. He likes to call himself Michael Voorhis. And he started up a church militant, which originally he called St. Michael Media, I think, or something like that, with $250,000 provided by a supernumerary of Opus Dei. Opus Dei is the cash machine of the Novus Ordo, the fake Catholic Church. And so he teams up with Gary, as I prefer to call him, or Michel Voorhis, who just coincidentally happens to have also been an ex-sodomite. Is he really? So, Milo was a notorious sodomite with black men, and, perhaps he's just realized there's no money in that, and he's gone to the sugar daddy version. I don't know. But what I do know is that if you try and ask Milo anything about his Masonic posturing, like, how many of you have taken a photograph with a hand over your face or doing the OK symbol over your eye? How many of you have ever done that? How many of you would do it if asked to pose like that? See? So, if you're not familiar, and if you're American, you probably are not, but if you're not familiar with what Freemasonry is, with how it began, with what they're about, first of all, I suggest go to kurgan.tv and click through and sign up to the digital Kurganet, because the series on Set Deprivationist covers that in a way that is quite extensive. Or alternatively, read the book that I wrote, Reclaiming the Catholic Church. Pick it up, and there is a lot of stuff in there about the original infiltration of the church. And I'm not talking about what happened 70 years ago. By then it was complete. I'm talking about what happened a couple hundred years ago. So that is, the Freemasons are a real thing. They're a real force for evil. They are absolutely Satanists. And yes, it is true that the lower ranking Freemasons do not necessarily know that it is about, Satanism, but it is. It absolutely is. And if you want to find out about this stuff, there was a series of fiction books called the Illuminati Trilogy by Robert Anton Wilson, which I read when I was 16. So I've known about these guys for a while. It was fiction books, but They had quite a lot of interesting information there. If you want to, again, find out a bit more about it, there is L'Eletta del Dragone, which is a book written by a woman that was essentially, again, written as fiction because of the people involved, but she was essentially the concubine, if you like, of Garfield, the American president, who later got assassinated and who was also a Freemason. And it gives you a sense of what Freemasonic lodges are all about and what they're like. They are absolutely satanic, so let's be clear on that. And people are saying, well, you know, what if he really did become a repentant ex-sodomite and now you're just trying to destroy him because he's not a sedevacantist? No. I don't care that he's not a sedevacantist. He is a fake churchan. He's a fake Catholic. And he's teamed up with another notorious fake Catholic who's a grifter, you know, Michelle Voris, Emo Jones, and Tay Marshall. Just in case you're not aware of these, if you go to my blog, gfilotto.com, and you look up for Grifters Catholic Edition, I explain there why you should have absolutely no mercy with these people, because they're leading souls to hell. They're essentially lying, absolutely lying through their teeth, intentionally, knowingly lying, funded by the money thieving branch of the fake Catholic Church, the Novus Ordo Church. I mean, Opus Dei essentially deals in slavery. They brainwash these young, usually orphaned women to become maids. And, you know, you have to wear like a little chain around your leg that like cuts into you, sort of thing, makes life uncomfortable, kind of like a hair shirt type of thing. You know, it was a mortification of the flesh type thing that some devout Catholics think you should do and whatever. But basically they pay these women wage slaves, they treat them like slaves, and they, you know, it's very hard to leave because they've got nowhere else to go and so on. Opus Dei is an evil organization, and Gary Voris is absolutely funded by it, and Milo is now working and writing stuff for Church Militant. And of course, if you go to Milo's chat on Telegram, he's got about 30,000 subscribers, and you just ask the question, Milo, what are your Freemasonic connections? You get a pretty banned instantly. That's what happened to me. That's what happened to a bunch of other sadists that said, you know, well, let's just find out. And they just volunteered to go on and figure it out. And of course, I knew that once I released this, his moderators are retards. They really don't know how to play this very well. So after the first post, you know, I got accused of being some gamma male who just wants attention. Because I knew that was coming, I held back the emails that Milo sent me as a response to my, like, you know, after not hearing anything about the book or anything, I just sent him an email saying, your Freemasonic connections and interview. And I put that on the blog. It's the second post on Milo. And there was instant replies, like not even a minute passed before he replied. And the whole email exchange is like 10 minutes or something. So clearly he was getting my emails. He just was trying to ignore them because why? Well, if he has read that book, which I believe he would have at least skimmed, and if he looked into me a little bit, and if he checked with his, you know, controllers, with his masters, they would have realized that I've been offered a bunch of money and that I've been offered the glory and the gold to sell out my Catholicism. And I have repeatedly said no, and in no uncertain terms. You could think of it a little bit as a Kurganish way of doing it. So he realized this guy's not for sale, and I better just ignore him. If I ignore him, maybe he just goes away. He's not really that big. There's not that many people following him, and I can just hide away. Well, unfortunately for him, it doesn't matter if I've got a lot of followers or not, because I am relentless. That's one of the things about being the Kurgan. You just keep going. So that's where we're at. And now they're trying to say, well, it's still just an attention whore. And of course, yeah, of course Milo would respond that way to like these, you know, these assaults on his person, claiming that he's a Freemason. Oh, what does it matter? A little OK signal here and there doesn't mean anything. No. But of course, the liars, the deceivers who are saying this are, you know, the people that are probably working with him, for him, under him, and just other sycophants, basically. Ranger on Social Galactic probably being one of them, given how hard he's gone at this. And, he's been blocked by most people there, but he definitely has a bug up his ass about any sedevacantists. Now, here's the thing. Everybody that talks about sedevacantists says, oh, they're just a bunch of little schematic freaks, they're autistic, they're Protestants and all that. But if we're so insignificant and so small and so tiny, why did Bergoglio commission a whole well-known journalist? And I'm just thinking if I've got it here or if I've thrown it somewhere. No, it's probably downstairs. He commissioned a well-known Italian journalist to write a whole book about the sedevacantists, to discredit us. And people like V.J. Dreyer, the liar, the fake orthobro guy who I had an internet bum fight with, and then like a 9,000 word after issue report where I crumpled every one of his single points, which I did in the debate as well. But people are just like, oh, he was shouting, you didn't know Denzinger, whatever. It's all written down, and there's been no response to that, none, because in writing they know that they're gonna lose. So why would they go after sedevacantists so hard? Why are there people publishing whole books that trying to discredit sedevacantists? I mean, if we're just an inconsequential bunch of guys. But the reason is, of course, we are the true remnant of the one true, holy, and apostolic Catholic Church. Now, I am now going to read the chat and see if you guys have got any questions and so on. Unseen 11, sorry to repeat the question from SG, but will your digital Kurganet explain Opus Dei? I haven't yet, but yeah, why not? I suppose I could delve into that. Could do a little video on Opus Dei. The series don't have a set endpoint. Some of them do, like the Face on Mars. Once I've said everything, pretty much that ends that series. But a series like, say, the Privationism or The Lies That You've Been Told, the History series. The History series, I've already got like 60 titles that I have to produce. And I think currently, the 4 videos for this week, 3 have been released. There's going to be the 4th one, between whatever, tomorrow and the weekend. So there's 4 videos a week being added every week. And I think as of the end of this week, there will be 20 videos on there, plus the trailers. So about 24 videos, I think, with 4 videos being added every week. So, if you haven't joined it, do look at it. It's the easiest way to find it, to remember, is to go to a website, kurgan.tv. And then from there, just click through and you'll get to the site that's got the trailer. The trailers you can see for free. You don't have to join to see them. And it's doing pretty well. We need about 100 subscribers to make it viable. And we're doing all right. They're not going to be there forever. Let's put it that way. I am crap at marketing, and I've been busy, and I've got a lot of other things to do as well for the farm and so on. But so I haven't pumped it a lot, but then I'm giving people a chance to still get into that, to be one of those 100. I think we've hit about a third of them are gone already, and I haven't pushed it very hard, but I think pretty soon there are people that are gonna help me pump it, and they've got thousands of subscribers. So once that launches, I don't know exactly when that's going to be, a week, 2 weeks, or whatever. I think those spots that are left are going to go quickly. So, if you're interested in the digital Kurganet, get it. The whole aim of the digital Kurganet is actually proper education. So it's giving you proper information with decent references, with decent history that explains to you how things actually work, because there's so much lies and so much nonsense out there. And I've got enough material for years, literally, because once the history series, I think it's just gonna keep going. I've got more than 2 years worth of titles already just for that. But when the other series end off, there's other things I want to do, like how the human mind works, neurology, like more into depth in neurology, hypnosis, and all that sort of stuff. So it is an interesting series. I genuinely think it's a good series. I think it's not just me streaming, talking randomly. It's very focused videos on specific topics. So go take a look. It doesn't cost you anything to take a look and check out the trailers and so on. So Unseen 11 says, just like in the Talmud. Okay, I'm not sure what that was referring to, if you want to question or whatever. Alicia agrees and says he's constantly looking to that woman for approval on his videos. I'm not sure who you're referring to. Alicia, did you mean VJ Dreyer or did you mean Milo? I don't know. Do you not think a gay man can stop the gay lifestyle? Denny Helms. No, gay men have stopped the gay lifestyle. If you're interested in that sort of thing, you're struggling with that, I strongly suggest you look up a guy called Cy Rogers. There's a 2-hour video that he's done, presentation, that I saw. Very good. Very good, very honest, very down to earth. And, you know, I've got a close, you know, a good friend, someone who has behaved impeccably with me, and who himself says, you know, pedophiles should be burnt at the stake. And he's full-on homosexual. He's got no attraction whatsoever to women, and you know, we talk about it quite openly. He's a good friend of mine. He's somebody I try. He's always behaved super professionally, super, you know, great with me. So you know, just because you're gay doesn't mean I don't think that you should necessarily be burnt at the stake. I do think that you know, gays have a proclivity to abuse, and probably a lot of them have been abused. Statistically, these are facts. They're not my opinions. You can go look up medical research on this, and gay men have been, the likelihood of them having been abused as children is between 2 and 37 times. The likelihood of gay men abusing children is something like more than 10 times, it's around 11 times more than heterosexuals and so on. Violence between lesbian couples is higher than any other couples, and that sort of thing. So they've got a lot of issues, you know, for obvious reasons, because it's not a stable or healthy sort of situation. But just because you're a sinner doesn't necessarily mean that I don't necessarily hate you outright or whatever. You know, it depends on the level of sin, of course. If you're a child molester, if you're a child rapist, zero tolerance as far as I'm concerned. You need to be burnt at the stake. That's my personal opinion, and that's not going to change. So, we got Dances with Logos, the Kurgan High Priestess. Hola, Senor Carlos. VJ Dreyer, okay, she's laughing. I'm going to subscribe tonight, Kurgan. Oh, thank you, Priestess. I mean, I still haven't. I will market it more. Dilo, the High Priestess of the Kurgan cult, is not registered with the digital Kurganet. Somebody needs a beating out there. Anyway, that's pretty much my take on Milo. If you're interested in the details, as always, you know, video is one thing. You want the details, go to my blog. I have put the links in the description, so you should be able to go there. One other thing. And people are saying, oh, it's all circumstantial. No, it's not. Adam Piggott, who has got a blog called Pushing Rubber Downhill, and I've put a link for him as well, he actually clocked Milo long before I did, because he had done blog posts. I wasn't aware of this. He'd done blog posts on Milo a long time ago, and he did when Milo supposedly converted, and I think he had something like, to think that I'm a little bit skeptical would be like saying I think that the Australian outback desert is a little bit dusty. You know, it's like, so he clocked him a long time ago, but he's written a blog post recently called Philotto Nukes Milo, something like that. Very complimentary of myself, to be honest. You know, Milo was flagged to me by others. I then looked into it myself, but to be fair, I think Adam had clocked him a lot sooner than I had. So it's getting some legs, which is good, because the whole point of Milo being, buddying up with Michel Voris is that, of course, they're pretending to be the other side of the coin. This is what Freemasons do. It's like, well, who won the Second World War? Oh, America. No, no. If you look at who funded the Second World War, the people who actually made bank on the Second World War were playing both sides. And that's what the Freemasons always do. That's what the Satanists do. They set things up as like the left versus the right, and they're playing both sides. Now, if you're in America, you should have figured this out by now, because, oh, the Republicans. No, the Republicans, it is absolutely factual now. It's been proven that they're just taking money and losing the fight. That's what they do. And Freemasons do exactly that. They set up this like false, oh, we're the good guys. We're like, pro-men and anti-feminism and anti-equality and anti-LGBT and transgenderism and all the stuff they're trying to brainwash your kids with. Oh, that stuff's just bad. And what they do, so you've got the left hand, it's leading you to hell, and the right hand is leading you to hell by a slightly divergent path. Either way, both hands are leading you to hell. And you've got to take that narrow road in between and shoot down on both sides the lies. Because that is what Freemasons do. That's what Michel Voris does with his fake church militant. That's what Taylor Marshall, who was a Protestant grifter and realized there's more money in the Catholic Novus Ordo grift, and he still uses the same Protestant methodologies on Catholics, which is quite laughable, because of course any real Catholic would laugh at this whole like, oh, we're beginning my video blog, oremus, let us pray, let us say the Ave Maria. No, there's no such thing as layman-led prayer in Catholicism. It's between you and God. And the only person that leads such things are priests and bishops, and that's it. And if you have a conversation with a guy about the Bible or whatever, then it's just two guys talking. It's not like, well, I am the guy that's going to lead it. Nah. No, Tay. No. Go back to your Protestant grift. We don't want you here. So, it doesn't matter. I don't care. Emo Jones, another grifter, another complete grifter who absolutely knows that Vatican II is complete rubbish, and he supports Bergoglio, who's a pedophile defender. Bergoglio has not even defrocked a priest in Mexico that's raped 30 little girls between the ages of 5 and 10 with AIDS. This priest has AIDS. This fake Molochian priest has AIDS and raped 30 little girls, and he didn't even get defrocked. No punishment whatsoever. These are the stuff that I go into detail in the Set of Probationist series in the Kurganet, the digital Kurganet. So if you're interested in that stuff, get in there. But the whole point of like why I'm out in this guy is because they're trying to pretend they're Catholics. No, you're not. You're a lying, perverted, infiltrator, Satanist, just like all the other ones that are pretending to be, Catholics in their Novus Ordo. Question from Instinctive Archer. What do you think about Alexander Paramov and the Knights Hospitalier as an organization not connected to Knights of Malta or Vatican? I don't know of them, so I can't say. But Knights Hospitalier was something that was originally a valid group of people. But of course, if they pay allegiance to Rome, are they sedevacantists? It's very simple. Oh, that's another thing. One guy got, I don't know if he got banned, but he got shouted down, let's say, by Milo, for saying like, oh, because now Milo, after all this, he's now like, oh, I'm exposing fake Catholics. Look at these Catholics that are all actually Jews who are pretending to be Catholic, and they're saying, oh, immigration and all that. So he's running for cover. And apparently he had a strange phone call and a disturbing email that sent him in a bit of a spiral, which makes sense, by the way, because if as a Freemason you get exposed as a complete Freemason and it gets known that you're a Freemason, Freemasons quite clearly will kill other Freemasons. And this is already in my book. I cover this in the Carbonari. This was already prevalent, hundreds of years ago, where a couple of these guys got executed and they were Freemasons. And there's letters between the other Freemasons says, yeah, well, they were kind of dumb to get caught. But it was a good thing that they got killed like that, because they got killed as heroes of the revolution. So it's like, yeah, that's gonna get more people. Great. And also we must remember that from now on, if any heroes of Catholicism actually come up, we can't let them die like that, like heroes going up to the executioner with their head held high. No, no, no. We must drug them and make them weak and begging for mercy and sniveling little cowards. That's the only way, for these guys to behave. So they know exactly what they're doing. If you think that Freemasons are just this like brotherhood of man guys, you're absolutely had the wool pull over your eyes. They are sneaky, evil fuckers, and they delight, and they've had hundreds of years of practice at manipulating the way you think, at manipulating both sides of the coin, at manipulating the media, at manipulating the presentation of all their stuff. So, keep that in mind. Noventalian says, only watched a few videos so far, but the digital Kurgnet is well worth it. Well, thank you, Noventalian. I'm glad you're part of it. Tom Mastrani says, I believe Randy Engel reported in her series on Opus Dei that Tate headed up some Opus Dei center in Washington, D.C., including hosting a podcast radio show for them. Well, there you go. Not a surprise at all. By the way, Randy Engel did a brilliant job in exposing Emo Jones. And it is something you might be interested to know that in the Sedeprivationist series, once I'm done with the basics, there is a series that will continue on, and it is exposing the grifters. And you might already have guessed there's a few names already penciled in there, because each one of those videos is going to expose one of these guys for the fake pretend Catholics that they are. Noventa Leon gets it because he says, Catholic or get the fuck out. No more sewage in our ice cream. Exactly. Exactly the analogy I always use. How much sewage do you want in your ice cream before you stop eating it? Because you get one of these Novus Ordo infiltrators, fake Catholics, and they're out. Keep in mind that when I was still in England, and I was going to the churches there's a group of people that were like, oh no, and it was quite a big group. They were like, oh yeah, we're all Sedes, and like, but some of the other Sedes, no, but wait a minute, but you guys do like a una cum mass. Now, an una cum mass means una cum, one with mass. And what that is they take the name of the fake Pope, Bergoglio, and they join it to the mass. Now, actual Catholics like myself and the other people there said, we're not doing that. And we created a little group on Telegram or whatever, and it's like we excluded every one of those people. If they didn't leave, we kicked them out. And it doesn't matter if there's like 3 of us, 30 of us, or 10,000 of us. Not a single one of those people is going to be allowed in. And if we discover that they do that sort of stuff, they're out. For a very simple reason. You cannot join the sacrifice of the Mass. The Mass represents and reenacts, essentially, the sacrifice of Jesus Christ on the cross. And you connect that to a fake pedophile protector that's sitting in the Vatican pretending to be Pope? No. No, you do not do that. Catholics kneel when they enter church and they cross themselves. The whole Mass is an absolutely dignified event of the utmost respect and honor towards our Lord and King, Jesus Christ. You do not join him with sewage. And that's why I keep making the analogy. How much sewage do you want in your ice cream before it's not ice cream? A single drop? How much sewage would you let your kid eat with his ice cream? Any? Because if the answer is any amount, get the hell away from me. Because you belong burnt at the stake as far as I'm concerned. It's not difficult, guys. Hello, Woolly Ram. Good evening. I missed some of the stream. Did you touch on the fact that Milo is too smart and connected to have any recourse to claims of ignorance or misunderstanding? Oh, no, I didn't mention that, but thank you for reminding me. I think it's pretty self-evident. I mean, Milo's an intelligent guy, very well read. You can't pretend that, he's like, well. Oh, and apparently Milo doesn't even know the Pater Noster or the Ave Maria in Latin. I think it was Dilo that pointed that out somewhere in one of her posts or something. It is good to know who is a snake. Indeed. Hello, Douglas. Douglas Jones. One of my hopeful, soon-to-be crusaders, I hope. So, yeah. And now, perhaps you're starting to understand why I originally said, long before I actually got to the physical part of creating the Kurganate is not a democracy. It is a tiny empire. And the reason for that is very simple. Because while I do not want drones, I do not want, blind ass soldiers. I want the Spartans. I want the 300. That's what they're called, the Immortals. The 300 were men that individually all chose to follow their king to the hot gates and stop the Persians, because the Athenian government had forbidden them from taking soldiers to go up there and protect the Sparta, the whole of Greece, really. And Leonidas said, well, I don't give a shit what you say. I'm king. I'm going to go for a walk out there. And his bodyguard, his personal bodyguard of 300 men, all said, well, the king's going for a walk to the hot gates, so I'm going to go for a walk to the hot gates. All individually chosen. And that's the men I want in my Kurganate. But at the same time, there is only one king. And if the king says jump, he shouldn't have to tell you jump. You should have already jumped, because you should have already foreseen the situation, realized what's required of you, and done it without anybody telling you a damn thing, because you are an immortal. And, I don't care. If people don't like it, then don't be here. Don't be part of us. Don't be part of our group. Whatever. Do your own. Do your own Kurganate. Do your own sediprivationist community. It's not like I'm forcing anyone to be here, but them's the rules. Same like when I was doing karate, there was like 5 rules. It was like, if you get onto that dojo floor, them's the rules. You get knocked out, when you wake up, you carry on, and you clean up your own blood. And there was a bunch of other, more simple rules to follow, but that's the rules of the dojo. Nobody forced you to stay there. Nobody forced you to join. Nobody forced you to be there. Nobody held a gun to your head. But if you come in here, that's how it is. So, exactly. Sede Sparta. Very good. Carlos, you get it. Empires fall. Make it a nation state. Now, empires fall when they get too big and when they become unworthy. But kingdoms, which is all that an empire is. An empire is just a bunch of kingdoms that got expanded. Charlemagne did quite a bit. He was an emperor. Catholic emperors did a lot. Catholic kings did a lot. And don't connect the secular empire of America or of other similar fake nations to an empire of a benevolent dictator. Benevolent dictatorships have invariably done very well. Nations that are run by kings have lasted for centuries. Of course, the danger is that, once a good, handsome Kurgan like myself dies, the next one that takes over, the son, whatever, could be a bad guy. That is always a fear, but it's one guy. It's like focused right there, and you kind of know where the buck stops. So, Rodolfo Piceno says, what's your opinion on Owen Benjamin and Vox Day? I've given my opinion on Owen Benjamin quite a few times. I think if you go through my videos, they're all numbers. There's something, it's called something like The Inquisition of the Heretic Owen Benjamin. And we're still very disappointed that he has not carried out his own punishment for being an absolute heretic and a coward. Because when he was, Milo the Freemason, Emo Jones the Opus Dei funded guy, and some coffee guy, also, some fake church and Catholic, and Professor Rachel Fulton Brown, who I will not include with these other individuals, because I don't believe she is. But if I turn out to be wrong, well, guess what? We're going to find out. But, they did the intervention on Owen for his, blaspheming the Trinity. And of course, when Emo Jones called out Owen on, saying, well, are you saying the Trinity was a homosexual? Oh, no, I wasn't. It's just, he's a coward. Owen will never say anything of that sort face-to-face to anyone like me, because he knows that he would repent very quickly about his blasphemy there and then. And then he would have to do many, many mea culpas on his knees. And, you know, he's got bad teeth as it is, so possibly some of those teeth might fall out. But yeah, no, I don't think anything of Owen Benjamin. He's an irrelevant guy. I think, quite frankly, I think he's not mentally all there. I think a few years ago when I kind of liked the guy, originally I didn't know anything about him, didn't know who he was, but when I discovered him, I thought he was all right. And then over time, he demonstrated himself to be a complete fucking waste of time. Flat Earth and all that other shit. But yeah, Vox is a friend. You know, I think he's slowly making his way to seroprivationism. I think Vox's main issue with seroprivationism is that he's got a serious issue with authority, which I understand because I had a serious issue with authority most of my life, but not when it comes to, you know, the truth or the church or whatever. But you know, Vox has been pretty complimentary of some blog posts I've written, some swipes I've taken at fake churches, including Protestants. I recently wrote a blog post about the case for seroprivationism being made, and you know, he upvoted it. So he's a pretty objective guy, and you know, he's doing a lot of good work. He's pushing back against the tide of, shall we say, modernism. So right, Carlos says, I was going by the definition of empire as a collection of nations. There you go. Heterogeneous. No, a kingdom works. Wants to be a solid group of immortals. Exactly that. And, you know, if you're a filthy foreigner, you will be in the Foreign Legion. And we'll keep an eye on you just to make sure that, you know, you don't turn on us. And you'll be at the front line, of course, because that's how you prove your loyalty. You know, that sort of thing. The Trinity intervention, it was entertaining. Yeah, it was. But again, you know, a bunch of grifters, like calling out another grifter. It's like, AJ says, it's good to see the Kurgan alive and well, slaying olive branches and thickets of all kinds. To be fair, it's my very loyal Crusaders that have been doing a lot of the chopping out there, to be honest. But I was just had a walk today with my most loyal Sede, and he's done a lot of work. So did the other very loyal Sede, who's somewhat of a pilgrimage at the moment. But they've cleared up a lot of stuff. But one thing I noticed is the difference between the olive trees that we did manage to prune in time and the ones we didn't. Pruning your trees makes such a huge difference to the fruit they bear. It's astonishing. And of course, we didn't get to the vines this year, but we will get to the vines next year. You know, when I first arrived here, I said, I'll give myself a year to put this property a little bit in shape, but so much stuff has to be dealt with. And I'm not talking about the farm stuff. If I could just do farm work like every day, all day, a year would have been about all right. As it is, if by next year we'll have been able to have pruned all the plants, and I include the vineyards and whatever, cleaned up all the grass, I'll be pretty impressed. And if we manage to plant, you know, a bunch of vegetables that produce some fruit, that'll be fucking amazing. I am thinking of possibly having a small, you know, building a small greenhouse, but I don't know if I'm going to have the time, money, effort, all that. I could definitely do with a tractor. So, you know, if one of you wants to donate like about 10 grand to buy a second-hand tractor, I could definitely use one. But yeah, it's just an expense that I had other things to get sorted out, which ate into the reserves and set aside for that. So we don't have a tractor. So either we need a lot more manpower, so more Crusaders to come and live in the Kurganate and make a go of it, or make some money and eventually buy a proper tractor. Carlos says, I'm also bald. Our excess testosterone cannot be hidden. Indeed. That is what it is. I mean, I used to have hair, but then they just shoot out like little spears, you know. You can see there's like a tiny little fuzz here. which my daughter loves, like tickling me on. But yeah, that sounds amazing. I'm trying to do the same now. Good, AJ. You've gone. I do believe you're the painter, aren't you? I was very impressed with your increase in ability in painting. It's quite something. So yeah, don't quit, man. Just keep pushing and keep creating those communities. Now we are scattered. It is, there are a lot of sede churches in Italy as there are in the States, but it doesn't matter where you are. Just remember the original first Christians, the first guy that became baptized by some random dude in East Asia or something. He didn't have priests right next to him, to help him. You build the community, build yourself, build a little church, and the priests will come. It's a little bit like Field of Dreams. You build the chapel, and the set of priests will come. That is a long-term plan that I've got here as well, to build a little chapel with a little like a little apartment, so that a priest can reside there. So. And look, if you guys are interested, if there's enough cities around the world to fund it, again, to get back to the question, what do I think about Owen Benjamin? I am never gonna take a bunch of money saying, oh well, I'm just gonna buy a bunch of land, put it in my name, and you guys maybe can come visit. No, that's fucking theft as far as I'm concerned. But if people that can afford it want to buy land here, they're confirmed that you have to be a sede. There's no, you've got to be either a sedevacantist or coming here to get baptized before you even do anything, become a proper Catholic. I'm not accepting into my circle, so to speak, anyone who is not a proper sedevacantist. But you've got to be a sede. But once you are one of us, then, the more the merrier, sort of thing. And I know it's more difficult for people like myself that perhaps are a bit older, they've got kids, they're married already. To make such a move to Italy is not a joke. It's not particularly difficult to move to Italy in terms of money, but the paperwork is a labyrinthine at best. But the thing with Italy is, yes, it's painful, lengthy, and and nobody really knows what you have to do, but eventually you'll find a way. So there is that. Of course, if you got a lot of money, it's always easy, because you can just, or if you open a business of a certain type or whatever. But it's not particularly onerous to be able to move to Italy in terms of the amount of money you need. It's mostly a paperwork problem, a bureaucratic issue, rather. And of course, the idea is to also get locals. Average Italians are, my neighbors are awesome, and but the idea is to keep building it. It doesn't matter where you're from. Eventually, if we've got like 50 people that all think the same, 50 people can change the world. Sometimes an individual has changed the world, like Tesla changed the world. The 300 of Leonidas, they changed the world. It's the 600 Knights of Malta, they changed the world for the better. So you don't need huge numbers of people. You need absolutely dedicated, proper Catholics, which is why I insist on, like, there have to be sede. You can't be like some random Protestant that thinks, well, it's a good idea, community. No, go do your own. Go somewhere else. So yeah. Well, I've been going almost an hour. 32 of you, quite a few. So shoot the questions. If I don't want to answer them, I won't. But like, go for it. AJ says, I've thought about moving to Italy. My paternal grandparents are from Piceno and told me I could qualify for legacy citizenship if I went to live there. Yeah, you would. So investigate that with your local consulate, Italian consulate. Look into it, because you can do that. There was one of the guys that was going to come here, young dude, nice man, and he also had that same thing. And he got up to a point, then his dad, I think, got sick, and he got sick. They both got COVID. And he spent more time with his dad, and I think he reconnected with his dad, because I think he was probably quite a disaffected young man. and he said, guys, I can't do this anymore. You know, I'm gonna stay here with my family. Which, to be honest with you, it's better for him. You know, I'm happy that he reconnected with his father and that he realized family is the important thing to look after. And I still hope he's said it. You know, he's sort of cut contact since then, because it's I'm very used to this, having taught martial arts and, you know, trained men for a long time and whatever. You guys who are like quite proud and they're quite detailed and they want to do stuff, they'll start out like raging, and then if they hit like a block that like changes their who they think they are or their sense of identity, they can't recover from it often, and they just slink away sort of in some kind of shame. And there's no need for that. You know, we're all human, we all fail, we all get broken, but the thing is, get up again. You know, it's not how many times you get knocked down that matters, it's how many times you get up. Because the one time you don't get up, fight's over. So yeah, there's quite a few of you here, so I'll you know, go for it. If you got questions, fire them out. Sir Law, have you ever heard of the Caritas Catholic community in Birmingham, Alabama? Oh, the name distantly rings a bell, but I am hopeless with names. But again, you know, guys asking me like, what about this guy? What about Gary Voris? What about Michael Voris? Oh, they're the same guy. What about Taylor Marshall? What about Emma Jones? But Emma Jones wrote against the Jews, and he talked about logos. And he's such a forthright, shouty boomer. He surely, you know, he's got to be legit. No. Oh, sorry. Let me just move that. It's disturbing me. There. No. It's very simple. Are they connected to Rome? Do they reject Vatican II and all their works and everyone connected to it? Do they call themselves sedevacantists or sedeprivationists? If they do not, they are not Catholic. It's not difficult, guys. It's like the witch test, you know? Are you a sedevacantist? Are you a sedeprivationist? Yes or no. That's it. And you know, the guys who try to like buy me out, they were like, are you sedevacantist? Like, we don't agree with Bergoglio. That's not what I asked. Oh, well, we are knights. We've got a knighthood of... which pope gave you the order? Well, here's a bunch of like papers with like really official looking stamps. Like, which pope said that yours is an order? Well, we are just good hardcore Catholics. No. If a pope did not sign off on it, you are not an order. At best, you're a bunch of laymen playing LARPing at being knights or whatever. In either case, you are not Catholic, because you didn't even know that a pope needed to like sign off on an order for it to be official, and B, you have not answered my question, and you haven't said, yeah, I'm a sedevacantist, and yeah, I reject all the fake popes. So no, it's not difficult. Medjugorje promoting community. I don't know what that means. TVCL says, can you give a brief history of Catholic Ireland? Some Irish I know swear by the evils of Catholicism, which appears to reach into the times prior to Vatican II. Well, there's always been evil. You know, if you're telling me were all the bishops and priests and popes of Rome like good guys? No. There were homosexual popes. There may even have been a female pope. There were popes that were just in it for money, power, concubines, and whatever. There have always been evil men in the church. I mean, read Mystici Corporis. It tells you in there. Pope Pius XII said sometimes even the highest offices of the papacy, of Catholicism, get corrupted so that the real heroes of Christianity, laymen, if need be, come and save it. It's, you know, there were a bunch of evil fucks they're everywhere, you know. There've always been evil people, and there always will be. It's life on this planet. Willie Ram says, can you speak more about how the Masons are imposing their own occult structure on society precisely to prevent real information from spreading? Well, again, I cover this very much in more detail in the Set Privationist series in the Digital Kurganet, but in brief, the Freemasons had to destroy the royal houses. Why? Because the royal houses, the kings and so on, were essentially thought of as having been instituted there by God. So while it didn't mean that a king was a good guy, it did mean that a king became a king because God allowed it. And it was then up to the king to either be a good king that, acted on in accordance with Catholic principles, or a bad king, which didn't. But as long as that was going on, there was no, so-called communism going on. And then the Freemasons realized after World War I, where they tried to say, oh, look, the elites are just sending you and your daughters and fathers and brothers to the slaughter while they just sit in their ivory castles, which is what the Freemasons do, by the way. And the population didn't rebel. They just sort of said, well, that's just how shit is. So they then had to destroy all the royal houses, Russia, Italy, Spain, all the royals, kings and so on got deposed and destroyed. And then they could begin to infiltrate the church proper. And once they finally infiltrated the church proper, well, then every secular government was finally fully open to them, except America, of course, which was always Freemasonic from the start. America was founded by Freemasons, on Freemasonic principles, by Freemasons. It's well known that Washington was a Freemason and so on. And they were funded by France in large part, which caused the French Revolution, the so-called Enlightenment, where little babies were butchered on spear points and all sorts of other horrific shit by the French enlightened people, that wanted to destroy Catholicism. You've got to understand the whole point of Freemasonry, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, the Rosicrucian, is the destruction of the Catholic Church. They don't care about you Protestants. They don't care about the Orthobros, because they're not Christians. They're not Christians. They only care about Catholics. And now that they've almost achieved their aim, the only people they care to go after are sedes, sedevacantists, sedeprivationists. Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is? You never see the Freemasons going after a bunch of Baptists, do you? Not even those fanatic Baptists that go to gay funerals saying, yeah, your son deserved to die or whatever. Baspor, I don't know. Whichever though. You never see Freemasons going after those guys. Why do you think that is? Yeah, Douglas gets it, like Sir Law at Kurgan gave direct answer to what matters when selecting a community. If they don't check those boxes, it doesn't matter what else they support. They're fake Catholics. Cheers, Greenie. I'm glad that you're finally coming out of the closet, admitting that, you drink on my stream. And you didn't send me that email you were going to send me. I just like to think of, I know Wooly Ram is slamming down shots while we talk and while he listens. But I like to think of Greenie as being in the kitchen, making dinner while she just makes sure there's no such thing as leftover wine in her house. That's just how I see her. Yeah, Douglas asks Wooly how he's doing, and Wooly says he's trucking along. Thank you. Good, good. Wooly, you may soon be our man in the Outre-mer, if what I'm reading about Israel is true, because apparently you're getting a whole bunch of cases of people dropping dead and they're all vaccinated. And in fact, I believe that some medical officers in Israel have been saying that the vaccinated in Israel should be quarantined because it is the vaccinated that are both in danger and dangerous, and the unvaccinated shouldn't be quarantined and should just be allowed to do whatever. So, give it another couple of years, and then I think you can become King of Israel. Ooh, there's a title. You better get baptized. Okay. 1 hour 5. Time flies when you're having fun burning heretics. Oh, the little one she's teething now, but the wife's there, so nothing I can do about it, really. How much connection have you found between Masons, banking families, and usury used to fuel war? About 100%. But you got to keep in mind that it's not always easy to spot the Freemasons, because they're a secret society, and they've got a secret society within a secret society, and then there are different lodges, and the lodges are even competing against each other. So it is truly a nest of vipers. But once you realize the level of deception, I think I might just make sure that my wife's all right there, because a little kid is squealing a bit too much. Yeah, just give me a second. Fire some questions. I'm just gonna check my little kid's all right. Yeah, all right. Should be left on her own for a bit. That's why. Okay. She's with the mummy now, so all good. So let's see. Yeah, I don't mind off-topic questions. You can fire them away. That's fine. Off topic, but our Australian trucker protest was a complete bust. And scene 11, I think I mentioned that in my last video in the after I had the interview with James Fox Higgins. I predicted that the so-called trucker protest would amount to nothing, because Australia, I'm very sorry for you that you're out there. I don't know what your situation is, if you've got family or whatever, but if you're a single younger dude, get the hell out of there. There is always a way out. Another telling you can't travel, you can't do this, you can't do that, but there is always a way out. There is always a way out. You just gotta, jump the right hoops or whatever. Ah, gotcha. Mosquito. They're starting to come back along with the Chinese bugs, stink bugs. AJ says, yes, growing up I always thought America was the best. Now, after undergoing so much of my propaganda and reading the heresy that is Americanism, I realize how much this country is Freemasonic to its core. Yeah, and look, it's a sad realization for all of us. We all have been lied to in one shape, way, or form or another. It's not your fault. You were born into the lie. You didn't know any better. But once you do know, it's incumbent upon you to take steps to free yourself as much as possible from the lies, and to help others to do the same. Woolly Ram says, I have a year and a half of ivermectin for prophylaxis. Excellent. Good man. And hopefully you've got a lot of ammo. Greeny Houdini, America was an experimental government from the start. Well, yeah, it was absolutely a Freemasonic government. How they shape society, just how they intended commercialism minds. Yeah, the American mind is very much shaped by secularism and worldly goods. I know about that because I've worked with Americans and American businesses, and yeah. And Rodolfo Piceno says, I can relate, AJ. My patriotism is slowly declining. Well, you can't be patriotic to America because it's not a nation. It's an agglomeration of all sorts of people fooled into believing that they are some kind of a nation, but they're not. Greeny says they don't even want us homesteading because they can't make a profit. Yeah, of course. That was the thing. I was having a conversation with somebody that said, oh, but how much, are land taxes? And I'm not going to say who it was, but somebody who's, thinking of buying property in Italy, and they had property in the States, and they realized that if they had held on to their property in the States, although their property has more than doubled in value, almost like tripled in value, the amount of land tax that they would have had to pay meant that even if they had held on to it and sold it, they would have made like, instead of hundreds of thousands of dollars profit, they would have made like 40 grand. So yeah, Italy doesn't have that. You've got to pay some taxes for like, a betterment of the land use or area. If they build a road to get your thing, or like some ditch or something to like drain the water, then, but it's minimal. I mean, we're talking like tens of euros, maybe a couple of hundred if that, but that would be like if you've got a really massive place. So that there's no such thing as like land tax here or anything. Kurganet Foreign Legion, first cohort, Team Meat Shield. I'm half German, I know where I belong. Very good. It's a tried and tested tradition in my life. When I was working as an armed bodyguard in South Africa, we had what we called the bullet catchers, and we gave them all the semi-auto weapons or even fully auto weapons or whatever, and that they were on the outer perimeter, and we made sure they had their radios in their ear with a little thing, and the nice shades, like Ray-Bans. You gotta have Ray-Bans along with your big machine gun, and you gotta stand right out there at the front. And they were basically our alarm bells, because if they get shot, then something's happening, and the inner team can like react. Greeny says the government is a fucking joke and I don't support them. Welcome to Italia. No Italian has ever supported the government ever, or any other. Government is liars, thieves, and whores if you're lucky, because most government nowadays is satanic pedophiles. So AJ says his patriotism died a long time ago. Good. Woolly Ram, secret societies, espionage organizations, banking families, occultists, entertainers, the devil has woven an impressive web. Yes, it has, and it's all to do with money, power, drugs, sex, occasionally some rock and roll, possibly. So, Grills Bear says opinion on Nick Fuentes and his legion of groypers. I don't really know anything about Nick Fuentes. I think I saw maybe a grand total of about half an hour of his streams, and I think he was just having a go at Vox and Owen, and he was quite funny. He's quite sharp considering he's a young kid, and I don't know. Apparently he made a lot of money, but then he had like $500,000 blocked or stolen from the government or something. He's on a no-fly list or something. So I don't know. I don't know if he's another controlled opposition or if he's genuine. No idea. Don't really know enough about the guy. He seems smart, and he's of a different generation from me. So I'm sorry, but there isn't much that a 20-something-year-old kid is going to say that I'm going to think, oh, good God, I didn't know that. Oh, let me pay attention. Call it my jaded Generation X view, but if, to be fair, my Crusaders are in their 20s and mid-20s, and they're very unique individuals. Unseen11 says wife's pregnant and due in November. Stuck here for a bit. I've got a British passport. Looking into... Oh, that went down wrong. Looking into getting one for my 1-year-old. Yeah, traveling with 2 little kids, a 1-year-old and a baby and a wife, is hard. But I don't know how old you are, Unseen11, But kids bounce back easy, and it's a lot better. Look, England sucks. I left England because it was completely cucked, but England is way better than Australia, and from England you can get to other places. You know, if you can't get to Italy or whatever, just get yourself to the Czech Republic. Get yourself to anywhere but Australia. I think Australia is the asshole of the world and 10 foot up it probably. So I'd get out of there. And yes, it's going to be tough. Make no mistake, with two little kids and a wife, your wife's going to go insane. She's going to think you're crazy. And the kids are going to drive her mad, so you need to help with that. But if you've got the money, if you've got the ability, honest to God, if I was in Australia right now with two little kids and a wife, I'd be doing my damnedest to hire a boat, a plane, whatever the hell, to get my ass out of there. And if you've got a British passport, make sure you're married to your wife. It's going to be tough for you to marry your wife in England if you're not already married. So, but if you're already married, and you've got a British passport, get your ass out of there. Get to England. It's going to be a bit harder for you to get into Europe because of Brexit now, but still eminently doable. And the thing in England is you can find work there. You will be able to find work there. Unseen 11, amazing, great work, and congratulations. Pedro Rocha, I have a little experience with Freemasonry. It infests almost everything, and if you keep your eyes open, you can see where they operate. Most plebs still think it's a conspiracy theory. Exactly. Exactly right. Woolly Ram, had a thought rattling in my head. It's very lonely, so I'll let it out. Good. Yeah, don't be lonely, dude. Bully, that's why we're here. I know we're just a digital Kurganet at the moment, but that's fine. Brisht says, hi. Pedro Rocha, I know a guy that was invited and the deal was simple. He would get a nice career and promotions and would just have to do what he was told. And if they ordered him to take a fall for someone else, he would have to or be destroyed. But he would not say any more details. Yeah, that's how they work. Woolly Ram, according to Catholic dogma, while God is infinitely merciful and loving, there is a limit to how many times he performs acts of love and mercy towards sinners, indeed, which means we have a dogmatic example of God choosing not to act even though he can. Oh, yes. And the unrepentant go to hell, so, perfect justice. TVCL, sometimes allowing us to go into the arms of the devil is an act of love. It's a way of teaching us what hell is like before we go there. Exactly, my own situation is a perfect example. AJ says, Kurgan, do you plan to make your own grappa? Dude, first I have to sort out the vines so that I can even get a couple of bottles of wine out of it. And grappa is made with the husks of the grapes, so I don't know if there's enough for one glass of grappa, and it would probably be like hardcore moonshine that would make you blind or give you superpowers. One of the two. But yeah, like Wooly, sometimes going through hellish situations is what converts us or what makes us better Catholics, or what shows us down the line what was an absolutely merciful act that we thought was the worst time of our life, and actually it's what saved you. Remember the story of the old man, the horse, and his son. You never know. People can say you're lucky, and the old man says, I don't know. People say you're unlucky, and the old man says, I don't know. Because you don't. Douglas says, still working to clear up my finances, but getting closer to escaping the USA. It's going to be hard to get there, since as an American, the financial restrictions are quite high. Well, Douglas, I don't know the details of that, but I do believe that you can get an online account with a German company that I think is called N26. So that's the letter N and the number 26. And I think you can open an account online. I think. I'm not sure. I don't know if that works for Americans, but and you don't even need a credit card. You can actually just use it on your phone, but they will send you out a credit card or so. So I don't know how that works. I know that Americans that live in Europe, I think. I can't remember if it's the EU or if maybe it's Switzerland or maybe it's England. I don't think it's England, but they they can have their assets frozen if they have assets in Europe that they haven't declared or whatever to America or something like that. Then it can be tough for them. So I don't know. But you know, Douglas, there might be another route. You might easily be able to get another passport from, I don't know, Dominican Republic or something, and then you use that to like get to wherever. Woolly Ram says, also, I don't drink at work. I didn't mean to imply you did, sir. Just hoping that maybe you're off. Unseen 11, thank you for the advice. Wife is open to moving, but after the baby's born. Yeah. You know, if she's due in November, you gotta wait that one through. And look, you know, we had a similar situation. I mean, we had our last baby was born at the end of October. We had to wait for that baby to get born before we left, you know. So just make sure that you've got all your passports applied for straight away, that you've got all that stuff like, you know, nailed down. Get the paperwork done as much as you need to. And then, you know, I don't know what your finances are like. I don't know what your possibilities are like, but you know, where there's a will, there's a way. There's always a way. It might be hard as hell, but there's always a way. Rodolfo says, Pedro Rocha, it is everywhere. I was working in Monterey, California. The name of John Steinbeck was all over the place. And there was even a masonry lodge. There are Masonic lodges in most countries and even in most cities that you don't even know about. Douglas says, Rodolfo, where I live in the USA, there are lodges everywhere. Towns even put signs up stating how proud they are to have them in town. Yep. They're getting bolder now, you know, so they're people don't know. I mean, like 200 years ago, everybody knew that if you're a Freemason, you're a Satanist. It was like obvious. It was like, oh, well, Satanist, well, let's chase him out of town with like pitchforks and torches, you know. Now it's like, oh, they do charity works, you know. Fucking, you know. I had a conversation with Vox not too long ago where he said, like, well, you know, I've offended a lot of people by saying, look, most people are idiots, and that includes you. Over the years, you know, he said that to a lot of people over the years, and you know, that's how it is. Just most people are complete morons. Woolly Ram, thinking back, I've known two Masons, both worked in high tech, one in startup, the other, who claimed to be a 33rd ranked member, was a high tier network engineer. Yeah, I've met a guy who claimed to be a 33rd degree Mason. I don't think he necessarily was, because he was working as a glorified security guard. He was one of the bodyguards that we sort of hired for a bit, and he told the Jewish guy that sort of ran our team, or not ran our team, but like he got the work to join, and this Jewish guy like joined because he said, oh yeah, I want to join just to see like what's going on. I don't know if he's still in it or not. He was pretty Orthodox Jew about it, but who knows. Pedro says, my family works in health-related business, public, not private, and you can get a hint about the medics that are into it. The rings, necklaces, and earrings. It's subtle, but it's there. Yeah, they also have positions that they hold. You know, one of the photographs of Milo, he's doing the OK symbol, but he's also holding his legs in a special sort of way with his like hand on his hip. Funnily enough, a guy I used to train with Sistema with, he said that like once he was just waiting at a bus stop in a weird position, and some other guy goes, oh, what lodge? And started to like give him a weird handshake, and he's like, what? He goes, what lodge do you belong to? And he's like, what are you talking about? And the guy said, oh, nothing. And then he just shut up and he like left. And he was like, what the hell was that about? So then he only found out much later that like he was in a position, he was put himself in a position just by coincidence. That is one of the ways that like Masons like publicly display that they're a Mason, so that another Mason can recognize them, and you know, maybe they need help or they need to like join something, or they're new in town or something like that. So yeah, they are pretty much everywhere. Douglas needs to take off. Good night. Um, Rodolfo says it's all work that Mason's produce intended to deceive. Yes, I enjoyed reading of Mice and Men, Huckleberry Finn, and listening to Mozart. You know, I enjoyed reading The Phenomenon of Man by the arch heretic Pierre Teilhard de Chardin, and in fact, it brought me closer to Christianity. But you know, that's just because God can turn even evil things into to work for good. You know, they killed Jesus on the cross, and that became the salvation of man. But it would have been a bit better if they hadn't killed him on the cross and he could just become the King of Kings on earth. That would have been easier, right? So, and they draw a lot of symbolism from Solomon's temple. Yeah. You know, the other thing, and this is gonna like go off into a realm that becomes, people think, oh well, you see, that's why it's all nonsense. But you know that saying that the devil's greatest achievement was to make people believe he doesn't exist? It's true, because there are, and again, it doesn't matter whether you think it's real or not. It doesn't matter even whether it is real or not. But Freemasons believe in absolute magic, and you know, they believe in human sacrifice. They believe that the best sacrifice you can have is a male human child that's completely innocent, a baby, and of high intelligence, and that you should sacrifice this child in a satanic circle, because then the energy of the life force gets all trapped there. And they believe this stuff, whether it works or not, whether it's real or not. The thing is that the human mind can also, to some extent, shape reality. So the very fact that they believe in it will have an effect, and the very fact that they believe in it will lead them to perform these sick ritualistic murders and other things. So, you know, you have to realize that just because you don't believe in something, or you don't think that something makes sense, it doesn't matter. You know, that the people who do that stuff clearly believe in it, and they believe in magic, they believe in signs, they believe in spells, they believe in the sacrifice of animals, human beings, and so on. And it is grim, really grim stuff. Holy Ram says the leg position reminds me of the hanged man of the tarot, but I don't recall what it means. Well, you see, in the Bible there is the bad shepherd, which has got a withered arm and a blind eye. And that's why the whole symbolism of only like one eye and stuff, because they're following the bad shepherd, which is the devil, Satan, Lucifer. You know, his name is Legion. And that's hence also the one arm, you know, like always hidden or like bent over. And like the devil in the tarot, I think, has like one arm down, one arm up, something like that. And the legs also, and it is indeed, it is the hanged man. I don't remember the symbolism either, but it is connected to that. So yeah, and you know, I have read credible reports of Satanists, Freemasons, people who worship the devil and possessed people that indeed had what you'd call supernatural powers, and that they were genuine supernatural powers. They genuinely had, you know, things like clairvoyance or whatever, or they could perform things that you couldn't really explain by normal science. And again, you know, if you're a Christian, if you're a Catholic, if you understand how these things work, if you had some experience with this sort of stuff, it's there, you know, it's real. So it makes sense to me that there would be a way to manipulate it. Fremen on the Sand says, what made me believe in God before I knew God to be real was that those running the world believe in the devil, and they do sick, twisted things for the devil's glory. Indeed. It was one of my points as well, after I had my little road to Damascus moment and I realized God is real and God is love. One of the other things that became pretty obvious pretty quickly is that there is the fingerprint of the eternal psychopath is almost everywhere, and evil is so prevalent that you can't ignore it. it's just the the existence of a specified intelligent evil that hates us was so clear to me that it was like, oh, so the devil is it's really there, it's and that of course is a negative proof, but it is a proof of Catholicism, of Christianity. So yeah. Do I think that World War One and World War Two were mass sacrifice events? Yeah, it was also resetting of the economy, which we're fast approaching right now as well. And they revel in bloodshed and human sacrifice. I mean, millions of abortions. The tissue from living babies has to be used in the fake vaccines. It's sick. It's all sick, evil, evil, evil shit. And you don't quite realize how true the statement that we live under the dominion of the Prince of Lies is until you realize this stuff, until you realize the level of deception. If you told me when I was 16 or 20 or maybe even 30 that this is how the world works, I would have just said, you just believe a bunch of bullshit. There's no devil, there's no such thing that can hurt me or cause me to do shit. Because I didn't know any better. And it is very well hidden. And it's everywhere hidden. And it's everywhere in plain sight. And you're part of it. You're in the soup of lies yourself. I mean, I was having a conversation with my brother last night about, he's like, I'm telling you, look, get the hell out of there, get over here and whatever. And he's like, well, but what I'm doing here is important. He like found a little kid safe and sound. And, he did some very good work. And I'm saying, yes, that's great. But there's nothing more important than being with your own children, spending time with your own kids. And, that became really, it's something really simple, right? It's something so obvious. But that only hit home for me. And I was already a baptized Catholic when the whole COVID thing hit, and I had to work from home for like 5 or 6 months. And I was working longer hours than I was in the office, but my kids were there all the time. I could pop out quickly and see them for 5 minutes. And I realized, fuck, I don't want to spend 13 hours in an office. And, you get so used to it. And the thing is, I knew this before, because until I was in my 30s, I never worked in an office. I wasn't on the rat race. I was doing my own thing. I was writing books. I was teaching karate. I was like, working as a bodyguard. I was like selling computers. I was doing all sorts of shit. I was never worked for anybody. It's only when I got to England that, well, okay, let's try this rat race thing out. And I made decent money. I made a good lot of money or whatever. And I spent a lot of it on like, what's that saying that the guy with the football or whatever, I spent all mine on like wine, women, and drugs, and the rest I wasted. I didn't do any wine or drugs, but certainly a lot of women, traveling, doing shit that I like to do, whatever. But, you buy into it, you become so used to it, you don't even realize that it's completely unnatural and wrong for you to be 13 hours a day away from your own family, from your own kids, your wife. Fuck that. 200 years ago, and you told that to anybody, they would have said, well, what are you talking about? Of course I spend all my days with my kids. I have to teach them the trade that I'm doing. I'm a blacksmith, and I have to teach my kid how to be a blacksmith. It's like, it's completely unnatural. So, you're part of the lie, because you think, but I've got a good job. I'm providing well for my family. Yeah, by spending 15 hours a day somewhere else, and you get to see your wife and kids for an hour a day here and there, and maybe a bit of the weekend if you're lucky. And for what? Who are you making money for? Another guy. And by the way, that guy is not really enjoying it either, because he's in the same boat as you. He's making money for another guy. Or even if he's the boss and he's getting the money, he's working 18-hour days, because you're only working 13, and then he has to do all the other shit. So it's like, is that how you want to live? Read the blog, and the evidence is quite strong. Why would the secret lord be friends with him, though? I don't know. You'd have to ask Vox, but my take on it is like, I liked Milo. I thought it was on our side too. And Vox is a lot more open also to using whatever works. So, he's also, I am prone to that myself, but it's almost autistic level, like, not care what an individual does or doesn't do or is part of because he's busy doing his own thing. I'm sort of the same, except I've got a visceral instinct about people and like what I would and wouldn't associate with. And that's why, although I was quite, complimentary of Milo, I never really associated with him, and I never had anything to do really with him. And I predicted about a year and a half or two before he crashed and burned with the whole pedo thing that he was gonna be burnt. And even after that, I took his story for it of like, well, but I'm not a pedo myself. I was just saying, I was making a self-referential joke about myself and the fact that I was abused as a kid. And I believe that's likely. He probably was abused by a Novus Orco priest. And I kind of could see how that made sense. And I think it was probably true as well in that particular instance. But I still wouldn't associate with him. I wouldn't, work with him or have anything to do with him in that sense, just because he is openly doing something that is completely against Catholic thought and belief and so on. So, not my. And again, it's not about. I've known all sorts of people. Okay, I've had friends. I know people that have. You name it, I know them. The only thing I have never knowingly in any way associated at all, even in passing, is pedophiles. But I've known murderers. I've known people that have been in jail. I've known all sorts. There are certain crimes and certain things that I wouldn't forgive or forget about. But I didn't associate with people like that. But I know people that have killed people because they went to jail and whatever. That they had a reason for doing what they did. And I don't think anything less of them for it. It's just sometimes shit happens. So I don't necessarily judge people in that sense. But there are people that I wouldn't associate with. Vox associates with people I wouldn't even have coffee with. So I don't know. You'd have to ask him like the reason. But I suspect the reason is just purely one of not necessarily knowing each other beyond a certain point. Rodolfo said, oh, sorry, I missed one. Freeman on the Sand says, Woolly Ram, not sure if you've looked into Tartaria and Mud Flood Great Reset, but I think World War I and II was part of that. Okay, I don't know what that is. Brick says, Rodolfo says, Freeman on the Sand, I just found out about that hidden history. I am mind blown. Okay, I'll that little tooth again. And Freeman on the Sand says, demons are far more crafty and intelligent than man, and there's all sorts of propaganda to tell us how insignificant we are. Yep, remember, you have free will, demons do not, and they hate us for it. Indeed, and they're quite insidious. They never fight straight. Fighting a demon is not like, well, here I stand, demon, with my big, +5 vorpal weapon sword, like in Dungeons and Dragons. They're sneaky, evil fuckers. They never fight fair, they never fight straight, and they never present themselves as, here I am, the enemy. They're sneaky, they do oppressive shit, they like cause all sorts of little niggling problems at you. They're vicious. They're vicious things, and you should always unhesitantly use as much light as you can to burn their faces off and send them straight back to the hell they crawled out of. Disciple of Kreia, what is Vox's opinion of this topic? I don't know. A while ago, I think I remember him saying he believed Milo is a Christian. Not a clue. I haven't discussed it with him. I don't necessarily intend to discuss it with him. What people don't get is I don't care what Vox thinks about what I do, and I'm sure he doesn't care about what I think about what he does. And I don't judge somebody necessarily for the people that they associate with. Now, if you associate with a bunch of pedophiles, I will judge. But, like I said, I was fooled by Milo for a while, and I've just never associated with him in any kind of way, really. I just knew of him, and that's it. And I certainly didn't follow him or keep tabs on him or whatever. I can't blame somebody for being fooled by someone who is an intentional deceiver. It happens. It happens to the best of us. It's happened to all of us. I guarantee you that every single person in this chat has been deceived, has been lied to by some grifter, some con man, some ideological concept that they bought into that is complete bullshit. We've all had that happen to us. So, and I don't have to check in with anybody about what I'm gonna do next. The only person that tells me what to do or what to say is me, and no one else. God doesn't speak to me. If God told me something, that I can clear hear His voice, then yeah, I'll shut the fuck up and I'll do what I'm told. But I don't hear voices in my head, and I'm just trying to do the best I can with what I got. But no human on earth, or anywhere else for that matter, will tell me what I can and can't say, what I can and can't do, and how I should go about it. They can make their suggestions. I might listen to them, but ultimately there's only one person that decides what I do, and that's me. Huan B says, are certain martial arts demonically inspired? I've seen a talk with high-level Aikido master claiming that some things done by the masters was beyond biomechanics. Now, Michael Ryabko did mention that and said that, like, the katas that you do in this Japanese martial arts create demonic signs on the floor, and it's a lot of fucking horseshit, because I was doing Shotokan Karate for years. It's the one that's got the most katas. There's 26 katas, and I knew a bunch of them. The funny thing about katas, if you don't practice them regularly, you forget them. So even the katas I did my second dan grading, and I couldn't do it now. Probably wouldn't take me long if I went and looked at how the moves are again to get it back, but I have no interest in it. But no, the movements on the floor did not create some secret Karinji character that summoned demons. Martial arts are a way to affect your psychology through your physiology. So there are each martial art, real martial arts that produce effects that can have an effect. They will produce a certain mindset, and certain mindsets are better or worse than others. The way that I reinterpreted what Ryabko was saying, for example, was that after every training session in karate, I was beat. I was like fucked, bruised, broken, tired. I remember saying, more than once at the end of our classes, there was like, it was in South Africa, it was like if muggers were intelligent, they'd just wait outside our karate dojo with a bit of a stick, because by the time we're finished with the Tuesday class, which was the black and brown belt class, and you woke up there, some other guy like attacks you, you'd be like, man, I've just had 30 fights, I'm done. Fuck it, just take my wallet. While the training sessions with Sistema were the exact opposite. After every class, I was energized, I felt better, I felt healthier. So in that respect, one is a hard style. Karate is a very hard style, and you do everything hard, and you take everything hard, and you take the punches, and you take the damage, and you just power through it. While System, it's like avoid, and keep going in the same direction. Much healthier. So you could say that some are, if you want to say that that's demonically inspired because it is more negative and destructive to the body than the other one, I'll go along with it as a metaphor, but I'm not aware of any martial arts that are, demonically inspired and that they're doing ninja tricks by the use of demons. I've never encountered anything like that. Martial arts has always been a positive force in my life, even when it was karate, which was a relatively hardcore, negative, physically taxing martial art. But overall, for me, for my particular psychology, overall was positive. I was asked by one of the Sistema guys that I was training with later, like, would you make your son go to do karate? And I was like, no, why would I do that? Like, but then why do you saying karate was good for you? So because it was good for me. Because I was such a hard-headed guy that, like, I wouldn't have even understood how to do Sistema properly. I would have just thought it was not effective or not real or something. And now, you know, I've got a son, I've got a kid. I'm not going to teach him anything about karate, but when we play and stuff, I make sure that he's a tough little dude. He broke his ear cartilage the other day. I don't actually know how I did it, because he like was hanging on to the handle of a door. I don't know. He swung out to the handle of the door, and he was like, "Oh!" And he was just like, and one of the Crusaders saw it and was like, "Hey, are you okay?" And he goes, "Yeah, I got a bump." And then like he came in and he was like, kind of, you know, and I was like, and his mother was like, "Oh, I think he hurt himself." I was like, "Oh, that's got to be serious. If he's actually got tears in his eye and he's whining, that little dude doesn't just whine for no reason." Like, well, what's up? And she goes, "No, I think he fell. He's got a bit of dirt on his clothes." And I'm like, And as soon as he walked past me, like, he's got a broken ear cartilage. And she's like, "Oh, I didn't even see that." You know, but like, I don't know. I think because of training, I've noticed that, like, my dad was the same. You know, like a guy can come in and just have a little nick or something. I'll spot it right away, and I'll know whether it's from fighting or, you know, whether he scratched his head on a door or something. And but yeah, he just had a little bust, you know, very bruised ear, and you know, it's a couple of days later, and he's healed, and he's a tough little dude. But yeah, I'm not gonna teach him karate. You know, I'll teach him how to punch and strike and whatever, but not karate. He doesn't need it. He's naturally got already a much better movement. So yeah, no. Woolly Ram, growing up in a religion crafted to fool biblically literate people, then leaving it, gives perspective on just how thick the lie is. Yeah, Woolly has indeed got a good take on that, you see. Fremen says, Rodolfo, I read about the Galleria Umberto I, today, which has a photo showing it's from 1890 AD, and the architect did nothing but that building. Okay, I don't know what you guys are talking about. It's in Naples, and I can't find much about it. Thomas Troiani says, do you think widespread abortion and pedophilia go hand in hand, New World Order? Or is their defeat, Trump/Q is busting pedo rings and the new Texas anti-abortion law, just a ruse to get the well-intentioned but misled faithful to welcome and hail the Antichrist? I don't know. There's a lot of signs that indicate that we might be in the end times. And if it is, it's going to get worse before it gets any better. Personally, I don't believe the Trump Q thing. You know, I think anyone who's still thinking, you know, Trump is going to come back in August. It's the 16th of August. It's the 25th. Wait, the truckers in Australia are going to blockade everything on the 31st. Yeah. No. The deep state has fucked you over, and, you know, you're not going to vote those guys out of power. Just think, if satanic pedophiles are actually running things, you think you're going to get them out by voting? Really? You know, wake up. Wake the fuck up. I don't have to spell it out, right? You're supposed to be mortals. Woolly Ram, but how do you establish what is real beyond the coffee table exists? You don't have to go beyond the coffee table exists, my friend. If you know how to do logic, then you have got that reality. The coffee table exists. We know this because if I smash your head in it, you're going to ask me to stop. Everybody asks me to stop. It's weird. So coffee tables exist. What does that tell you? It means objective reality exists. If objective reality exists, by using logic and the powers of deduction, you can figure out a hell of a lot more than you think. It really is. And, you know, I know Wooly's younger than I am. I don't know where you guys went to school, but honest to God, look, I ordered this just because one of the Crusaders said, oh, it's the Trivium, the liberal arts of logic, grammar, and rhetoric. And it was written before 1958 by a nun. I have not even cracked it open yet. So, analogy, raw material for intellect. Illustration, imposition, and intention. Supposedly, this teaches you how to think. I just want to see if there is an actual section specifically on logic. The liberal arts. Logic, art of thinking. Grammar, art of inventing and combining symbols. Rhetoric, art of communication. The quadrivium, the four arts of quantity pertaining to matter. arithmetic, music, geometry, and astronomy. This is really interesting. I might get the other book. It looks like, this is classical Catholic education. Logic is absolutely, you need to be able to do logic, otherwise you're nothing. You're a monkey. Okay, if you don't know how to do logic, you're a monkey. You're a monkey in a cage being fed bananas. Or dicks, because you wouldn't know the difference, because you're a monkey. So, Fremen on the Sand. It's quite clear to me now that our history books are filled with either complete lies or half-truths indeed. Brick thanks me for the answer, I think. Oh, right, about Milo and Wild Fox's friends. Rodolfo says that's a beautiful building, by the way. The Galleria of Umberto I. I work in construction, and there's no way we can build something like that now. I work in construction too. You want to find out about, it's actually, I don't think I have that. I don't know if I've got that in the. Oh, I've got that in the history series about the Egyptian pyramids. You're gonna have your mind blown about that video. So yeah. Fremen says it really is beautiful. There's I think it's called Galleria Principale. Not sure what it is in Italian. Galleria Principale, it means the main gallery. That's older and also in Naples. It's a work of art, beautiful yellow and black paint. Pew and Bear says, I wouldn't claim that measure of demonic influence is equal to more damage to the user. I would rather claim that feeling the energy chi or kundalini within the martial art as feeling demonic energy. The measure of demonic energy. Yeah, chi, kundalini energy, whatever you want to call it, that stuff exists. I mean, but I don't think, it's like auras and stuff and like fields. We've all got magnetic fields. I don't think that is either good or bad. I think that you can twist it to whichever purpose you want. There've always been Catholic mystics that could heal people, like laying on hands is a thing. But now, when you get some snake handler that says, I am now going to release you of your demons, that's a con man who's doing cold reading and like using the principles of essentially of hypnosis and of the placebo effect to get some results. Proper Catholic mystics that heal people. I met one. I blogged about it. It's on my blog, gfilato.com somewhere. A guy that healed an injury I'd had for over a year instantly, and it's the freakiest thing. And he was a hardcore Catholic. He's dead now, but it's a awesome guy. And he got in trouble with the authorities because people found out that he had this power, and like his parents, their little girl had been run over by a car and she had a damaged leg and they'd gone for operation after operation after operation. They couldn't get her leg fixed, but they found out about this guy. They came to him and he laid hands on this little girl and fixed her leg. And the parents were so astonished, they told everybody. And before you know it, the guy had the cops at his house saying, oh, what did you do? You can't heal people, you're not a doctor. And he was like, I didn't do shit. But when I went to ask him, that was already after that. And he didn't give a fuck. He didn't tell me, look, I'm going to get in trouble, whatever. He's just like, just take your jacket off. He like pulled my arm something, and I was like, huh? What the hell did you just do there? And it was gone. He healed a bump I had on my hand for over a year. Instantly. Didn't even let me say thanks, just turned around and went back to the gardening he was doing. And people thought, he was people thought he was a very abrupt, hardcore guy, but he was an absolutely devout Catholic. Woolly Ram says, since the body is a temple for a Catholic, learning self-defense and keeping fit is guarding and keeping the temple of God clean and safe. P1 says the same with healers, Reiki practitioners, high-level yoga. Slanty Chauffeur Bear says, have you ever heard of old church organs being used for some type of sound-based healing? No, I've never heard of that, but it wouldn't surprise me. There are very tiny vibrations. Tesla had built a little machine that used to vibrate everything, and apparently, if you sat near it or whatever, you need to go to the toilet after a couple of minutes. And there are Russians or whatever that build like these beds over bees. So like they've got like the boxes where you keep the bees, and then they build these slats over them, so it's like a wooden bed without mattress, obviously. And they say they just lie there for a few hours a day or whatever, and it heals them, because the buzzing of the bees creates a micro vibration that, like, in some way, apparently just like settles your body in some. So I don't know. It makes sense that it could be. Rodolfo Piceno says logic tells me the world is not a globe. No, check your logic. Because if you're saying nonsense like that, then you have to be able to predict where the sun is going to be, where the moon is going to be, where the next eclipse is going to happen 100 years from now. And you cannot do that other than with the Earth is a ball spinning in space. So do not get fucking idiotic with me, please. The ice wall and Owen Benjamin's bullshit. Fucking educate yourself. God damn it. I mean, the Greeks figured it out, right? You don't even need computers to figure out that the Earth is a globe. And no, I'm not going to teach you. I've done videos on it. Just go read some other YouTube channels or something. Trivium and quadrivium, the 7 liberal arts, should be on the reading list of everyone. I started reading about it a few years ago, and it helped me get a lot more respect about classical education. Classical education is awesome, and I'll tell you something else. You should read about the Greek mythologies, because you think, oh, it's just a bunch of stories. No, read the Greek mythologies. You won't understand why, but it's good. Greeny says, working, listening, fascinating. Oh, I know what you're working on. The next glass. Pedro says, ask any current teacher and they will tell you that it is obsolete and problematic. But if you have background in engineering, the quadrivium is amazing. You learn to connect things everywhere. Yeah, I'm going to get that one, because this is the trivium. I'm going to get the quadrivium. Astronomy is something I am always enjoyed, and actually, because I'm doing the Face on Mars series, I'm getting back into it, and it's like I just don't have the time. I was telling my wife, I mean, I was just thinking about this, and I started to do a spreadsheet of all the different like distances between planets and stuff. I mean, if I had nothing, whatever, if I became a billionaire tomorrow and like all my kids are taken care of and I can play with them as much as I want, my spare time I would spend reading books, looking at stars with a really big telescope, and I've got a pretty decent one, and figuring out things, just measuring stuff and thinking about things and checking how stuff works. That's Daniel Pereira. Tesla invented the brown note. What the hell are you talking about? Brown note. I don't know what that means. Freeman says Gregorian chant, heartstone surface of churches and organs are all designed to make healing tones that overlap one another, and when done right will make you feel better. That's why the church would forbid certain notes. The modern study of psychoacoustic studies this, and effects of infrasonics as well. Places where people encounter ghosts tend to have a lot of LFO stuff. What does LFO stands for? Low frequency something? It's interesting. What was that thing that Freeman said about the, I don't know, Tartaria or something? Daniel says the bed of beasts sounds comfortable. Yeah, I was thinking of building one, but it's one of the million things I don't have time to do. Wally says, I've heard from friends and my parents that when they have a bad chest cold, the family cat would sit on them, purr for a while, and leave. The congestion would disappear within the day. Interesting. Freeman on the sand, nice June screenshot. Vibrations are very healing, says Greeny. Oh, I just had an unkind joke to make there, but I'll keep it to myself. Freeman on the sand says, forbid certain... Oh no, I've already read that. Greeny says, if the people could come together in good vibes, we can heal the world. I mean, after exterminating most of the 1%ers. No, but there is something to that. if you, like, when the priest comes around, or when you go to church and you're surrounded at mass and you're surrounded by devout Catholics, it raises your own level of spirituality. And I've actually been mentioning that because I've got a lot on, I really do. And I can sense when there's like just a few too many things trying to peck away at you. But the realization I had, sometimes I'm a genius, but sometimes I'm a little bit retarded, because it's like, okay, yes, I'm physically worn out, I'm not sleeping enough, yes, I'm mentally tired because there's all this other shit I've got to keep track of. But like, I've never been weak physically or mentally enough to like feel this kind of like a little bit run down. And it's like, so what is it? I'm like, oh, of course, it's prayer. It's like going to mass regular. It's doing the stuff that the spiritual aspect. I haven't been taking care of that as well as I should. And it's paramount importance. It is, of course, the most important part. Greeny laughs and says that I'm silly. I guess that's when I mentioned that you're working on your next glass. I'm on water now. This is not vodka or grappa. Oh, Brick says oscillation, and Freeman says LFO is low frequency oscillations. Yeah, low frequency stuff is bad shit, I think. I've been seeing memes comparing stars to Old Testament angels, showing how their light is diffracted through the atmosphere and form intricate shapes and colors. Some say it's because the lights are above a firmament, that is, the water's above, but I know from seeing how air shimmers over a hot forge or oven that air can do that diffraction too, obviously. Again, I've done a video on this. Please, for the love of God, if you're a flat earther, keep it yourself, okay? Just, you need to educate yourself. I've had telescopes since I was a kid. Believe me, you live on a round globe Earth, okay? And it works. The mechanism works. If you don't believe me, go and look up Professor Dave against the flat earthers. He's funny as well. And he just demolishes all their arguments. It cannot be a flat earth. There is no mechanism that works, that explains all the events that happen, that are predicted. Okay? Doesn't work. Woolly Ram says, might be an odd question. Have you ever walked past someone and felt his presence, like a sick dry heat on your skin? I'm a pretty, I am really quite sensitive, but I'm also, the outer shell is very sensitive, the inner shell is like hardened steel. So my first wife, I remember we went out for dinner once, and we were sitting in this restaurant, and there's a guy sitting behind her by himself, having dinner by himself. And after a while, she says, I'm getting a headache. And I said, oh, it's the guy behind you. And she's like, what do you mean? I said, it's the guy behind you. He's got a really bad vibe. And he was like a couple of meters away from her, like maybe 1.5 meters, 2 meters away. And I said, look, it's him. He's just got a bad aura. I felt it when I came in. And you're sitting too close to him. Let's switch seats. You sit on this side, I'll sit there. And, I know how to block that shit so you won't harm me or anything. I wasn't Christian or Catholic or anything by then. I was just done martial arts like a freak for many years. And she thought I was just crazy. But I said, just switch seats with me. What's it matter? So I switched seats, and I immediately had to put up a fucking barrier behind me because this guy was really intense. But the thing is, I know how to deal with that stuff. And I knew this before I got into system and all that. Because if you do, martial arts eventually coalesce. If you're doing a real martial art, eventually the truth is, there's only one truth. So again, logic, If you're following something that has some truth in it eventually, and you just keep pursuing the truth, eventually you get to the same point. And her headache went away within not even a minute. She was like, oh my God, it's gone. Really? It's that guy? And I just thought, I'm just going to shield this thing and it's going to bounce it right back at him. Fuck it. I don't want his shit. And I'm just like, and bounce it back at him intense. And after about 2 minutes of me sitting there, the guy started to squiggle and swarm. And then just like, oh, I have to go now. And just paid his bill and he left. And there's many ways to do that. Some overt, some not so overt. I remember once in a coffee shop, I sat down to have just a cappuccino by myself, and I was writing some notes. It was through a pretty turbulent period of my life. and I was just trying to like make sense of some things. And I just wanted to sit somewhere quietly and just do my thing. I can't remember if before training or after training, like on the way home or on the before whatever. I sat down there, and this guy comes sit next to me and just like starts sniveling, you know, like every like 10 seconds. I was like, blow your fucking nose. You know, you got a cold or whatever, just blow your nose. No, he just sits there and goes, I just thought, fuck this guy. So every time he did, I just went, and you're like, you know, we just do that, just like a little random note. Every time he went, it's just like, it became so obvious. The guy just finished his coffee or whatever, and he fucked off. And that was overt, because I wasn't just gonna like get him to move. I was like, no, I want this idiot to realize how irritating he is. But you know, there are many ways to do that. So I haven't had that particular sick dry heat on my skin, but there are definitely people that I avoid. I can even see them coming, like, nah, stay away from the guy. I don't want to deal with that. You can shield yourself from the stuff, but it does use up a little bit of energy to do that. So I tend to prefer to avoid them. And you know, there's the psychic vampires. They exist. They really try to latch on. So those guys, I have a natural instinct on how to get rid of them, because I like spike them. They're usually overt, they're usually verbal, and they like start trying to talk to you and trying to mess with your head. And I don't know, I'm just good at it instinctively. I was born with it. It's just like an ability to like shield, block, and attack them where it hurts. So they'll come and say like, oh, but so what do you do? Because you know, I do this, and I'm like, oh, so your life and your wife, and how many kids have you got? And I'd be like, I'm not giving them shit. You know, it's like people like that, when they start to ask me questions like that, it's like, I had a neighbor like once that was like, she's an obese woman that like wanted to know everything about like your sex life and who you were with and who your girlfriend was and how many girlfriends you got. It's just like, I'd give her nothing. You know, she'd like try to stop me on the stairs of the building every time. I was like, oh, what's this and that? And I'd just give them nothing. How many kids you got? I don't know. You know, who's counting? Yeah, but no, seriously, but are you married? Well, what does married mean, really? You know, and they fucking hate that. You know, and I'm like Teflon with that shit. And then I'd be like, why, are you married? And now they're like, no, are you? Now I'm going to suck your energy. You know, and it's, I don't know, I can't explain it. I can't teach it. It's either you know what I'm talking about, or it just sounds like madness. Greenie is laughing. I guess she's on a third glass. Or what is it? Pina coladas, did you say that you drink in the rain, like the song? Freeman says, check cymatics. Tesla said that everything is basically energy, frequency, and vibration. Yes, it is. Tesla was the master of resonance, and I realized that long ago, because it's in my my book, The Face on Mars. If you consider that only the material realm exists, a lot of things cannot be explained. Absolutely. Well, guys, I've been going for over 2 hours. Thank you all. Once again, I'll plug my digital Kurganate, because once the promoters slash like, you know, marketing type people, there's a lady there. She's good. She's got a lot of people that follow her. Once that kicks off, I think the 100 subscriptions at a special price are just gonna go. So if you're gonna sign up for the digital Kurganate, do it sooner rather than later. I have toyed with the idea, if we do get a lot of people signing up, I'm gonna try and keep the price as low as possible. You know, look, if instead of 100, 1,000 people signed up, we can probably drop the price and give somewhat of a refund to the people that paid full price. You know, so it just depends. The more you guys help me make that thing be successful, the more I try and do for you as well. And again, the point is not, you know, the point is, I hope and I believe, and I think the people that have signed up will tell you the same, that the videos are worth it. You know, it's like you're going to get over 160 videos per year for like, I think the price for the year is like, works out to about $20 a month. So, you know, you can pay Netflix, I suppose, and watch all the semi-porn gay stuff, or I'm actually giving you information you probably won't find anywhere else, just about, and making it a coherent whole. Because yeah, you might find bits of information somewhere else, but like putting it all together in a piece that makes sense and that teaches you something, that's what I'm trying to do with this digital Kurgan. And the more it's successful, the more I can make it more successful. Better equipment, I can get better research, better marketers, and blah blah. So anyway, that's my plug. I'm crap at selling shit. So okay, a few more questions now. Let's see. Cymatics. Yeah, I like cymatics. They're fun. I don't know what cymatics are. You see, I learned stuff from you guys. But knowing what really is there is above my intellectual pay grade. I know a few people that could see auras around people and tell things about them, but since I'm a bit blind, I cannot confirm. Again, if you buy the book, the Systema book that I wrote, there's videos in there. I teach you how to see auras. Or in the digital Kurganet, there is a section that teaches you how to see auras. It's not that hard. It takes you about 10 minutes to learn how to see auras. And I tell you how to do it both in the book and in the videos, although the videos in the digital Kurganet for Systema are different and separate from the 40 videos that come with the book. They're different videos, but some of the topics they cover is the same, but I've just uploaded the knife training, that knife drills with knife today. So yeah, it's in there. It's not that hard, Pedro. You can learn how to see auras. And there are some cautionary aspects of it, but I tell you about them in the book as well. Telling personal details to a stranger is weird. I get all sorts of weirdos at night, and giving them nothing is the only way to not become a hobo rest stop. Yep. Grills Bear, love the Kurgan. Very not Freemasonic. Yeah, no, I'm definitely not one of those guys. I fucking hate them. Freeman says, funny enough, when I'm trying to tune two instruments together, you can do it with an oscilloscope, and when they are in tune, the waveforms will freeze. You can combine input 1 and 2 together to make a third isometric shape. Looks quite pretty. I'm fascinated by that stuff, but completely ignorant of it. As some of you that have heard my brilliant sax playing might know, I haven't been able to play the sax because usually when I'm live streaming, the kids are in bed and the bedrooms are just next door. So I'll have to get a proper studio. If 10,000 of you subscribe to the Digital Kurganet, then I can build myself a proper studio in the forest, and I can play you more sax. I mean, that probably just killed the subscriptions, but. Bully Ram says the videos on Kurgan TV is basically the Kurgan LARPing as a teacher and doing so very well. Okay. Pedro Rocha Freeman says check oscilloscope music pictures from sound. It's a nice project to do if you have skills. Backstabber 101 says thanks again for the stream. Peace, guys. Hello, Backstabber. Nice to see you. Oh, Apex Twin did a song that used his face to generate song forms. It's some software synth for Apple computers only, so I never used it. Apparently whales transmit 3D images to one another in whale song. If that's true, that's mind-blowing. That's awesome. Woolly Ram, the sax of the end of days is currently sealed. Well, if we are indeed in the end of days, I might just get that studio and play the sax. The last trumpet. Pedro says, I'll look about Systema next then. I got both books on the Crusades, Flame, Iron, and God's Battalions. They're next on the reading list. Thanks for the recommendations. Well, in that case, I strongly suggest you buy my books, The Face on Mars, Proclaiming the Catholic Church, and Systema. Just Google my name in Amazon and put my name in Amazon and you find the books there. But okay, guys, I'm going for 2.25 hours. So thank you. It's been fun. It's gone quick. I always enjoy intelligent chat. See, all you have to do is just throw a few hundred gammas into a mass grave, and then you've got a good chat and good YouTube comments. It's awesome. Do check out Adam Piggott's website, the blog. Um, he's a good guy and pretty brave guy. I don't want to say too much about him, but he's in a full-on Arabic country and he goes around with the crucifix. He goes swimming with it. So that's awesome. He's a good dude. Okay, well, thank you all very much. Have a good night. God bless you and keep you all. And if you've got ideas of joining the Kurganate, be sure about it. Remember, it's not a democracy. And yeah, go for it. And those of you who are in shitty situations, God bless you and keep you, and pray. Pray properly without fear. It will help. It always helps. Good night.